Hello, friends, and welcome to the Week 6 edition of TXN Sports World NFL Saturday. I am your host, Anthony Florio, joined as always by good old MF Michael Fletcher. We might be awaiting the presence of Michael Bullock. I don't know. If he comes in, we'll catch him up on what he missed. If not, then we'll hopefully have him back with us Monday night on Ridiculously Raw. But Week 6 of the NFL season, and this is the first of bye weeks. The bye weeks start this week. The Detroit Lions, the Houston Texans, the Las Vegas Raiders, and the Tennessee Titans. Those are the four teams that will be on bye for. They get the first set of bye weeks this week. And yep, Detroit, Houston, Vegas, Tennessee. Just want to make sure I had the right four. So, yeah. So, one game already in the books. Another week and another edition of Thursday Night Football, as it was the Washington Commanders and the Chicago Bears at Soldier Field in Chicago. And the Washington Commanders won that game by a score of 12-7. Another Thursday night game, back-to-back Thursday night football games. We're not even there, with the detailed recap or any of that. The last two Thursdays have just been brutal to watch. But with this Thursday night coming up, I got a good feeling about this one. The New Orleans Saints and the Arizona Cardinals, especially with DeAndre Hopkins coming back from his 6-game suspension. Yeah, I think that one could be the one that gets him out of their funk. So we'll find out. We'll find out soon enough. But
Jeff Bezos must be thinking, I've put all this money to show my games on Amazon Prime, and these last 2 weeks, this is the performance you've been giving me, NFL? Are you sure you want me to take the Sunday ticket?
well, only time will tell. But New Orleans and Arizona, I got a good feeling about that one next week, especially with Hopkins coming back. That's going to be a difference maker there. So at the table next week, the Washington Commanders will be at home against the Green Bay Packers. That's going to be a tough game for them at FedEx Field. Whereas the Chicago Bears, they're going to be playing on Monday Night Football next week, as they will be going on the road to Gillette Stadium in Foxborough to take on Michael Bullock's New England Patriots. And that'll be on Monday Night Football. So see how that all turns out. So with all that being said, let's dive right on into the remaining action of week number 6. 13 games on the docket, just like we had the other night for College Football Thursday. And we started off with the renewal of a once great NFC West divisional rivalry, as it will feature the San Francisco 49ers squaring off against the Atlanta Falcons from Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. And that game will be over on Fox. And while I pull up my notes here, well, my sheet anyway, my announcer sheet that's not fully loading. So give me a minute here. Yeah. Now, as we all know, we're in baseball playoff mode, and I don't know if this is one of the games that was affected by it, but it might have been, it might not have been, but yep, the sheet's been updated. So here we go. Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, and on the call, it will be Noah Eagle, the son of Ian Eagle. He's going to be working with Mark Schlereth and Christina Pink. Noah Eagle is sitting in for Adam Amin. Adam Amin usually works with Mark Schlereth and Christina Pink, but Adam Amin is actually calling the Dodgers-Padres division series in Major League Baseball. So we'll see what happens with that. But anyways, the 49ers opening up as 4.5-point favorites. It's a 4.5-point spread for San Francisco. And the series history, it also favors the San Francisco 49ers 47-31 with a tie. And that one tie came in 1986. It was a 10-10 tie in Atlanta at the old Fulton County Stadium. Oh, my thing moved. Forgive me. My computer's acting wonky as usual. Here we go. Their last meeting was last year in San Francisco. San Francisco won 31-13. Last meeting in Atlanta, 2016. Atlanta all over San Fran, 41-13. The 49ers' last win in Atlanta was the NFC Championship game in January of 2013. It was a 28-24 win that sent them to Super Bowl 47. Their last regular season win in Atlanta was the last year of their divisional rivalry, 2001, at the old Georgia Dome. 37-31 overtime win. Wild game, that one. But nonetheless, let's kick off the remaining action of Week 6 with the San Francisco 49ers and the Atlanta Falcons in Atlanta. So here we are. You know how we always do it, the what to watch for, the bold prediction, the stat to know, fantasy, betting nugget, FPI prediction, score prediction. You know how we always do it. So here we go. The Falcons have rushed for more than 150 yards in every game but one this season, no matter who the running back is. Cordero Patterson, before the knee injury that landed him on injured reserve, was third in the NFL in rushing. In his place, the Falcons have used a combination of Tyler Algier, Caleb Huntley, and Avery Williams, all with 2 years or less of experience in the league. The 49ers will have more rushing yards than the Falcons. Something has to give in a matchup featuring Atlanta's third-ranked rushing offense against the Niners' top-ranked rushing defense. San Francisco could be without some key defenders, which means Atlanta will have its chances to gain yards on the ground. But the Niners also boast a strong ground game of their own, and the Falcons have been middle of the road in stopping the run. Give the slight edge to the 49ers in an area that will go a long way in determining a winner. The 49ers have allowed the third fewest passing yards in the league, while the Falcons have thrown for the third fewest passing yards in the NFL at only 834. Jeff Wilson Jr. has gone over 70 rushing yards in 4 straight games, season best 20.2 fantasy points last week in Carolina, and is averaging 5.4 yards a carry in the process. Atlanta remains the only team undefeated against the spread following its backdoor cover last week against Tampa Bay. Only 2 teams in the last decade have started 6-0 or better against the spread: the 2021 Dallas Cowboys and the 2018 Kansas City Chiefs. Slight FPI slightly like San Francisco in this one. 52% going with the 49ers. I'm going with the 49ers to win this game as well. My final score is going to be 27-17. The San Francisco 49ers over the Atlanta Falcons keep their winning ways going. So not much more to say here. MF, San Fran, no trouble with Carolina last week. And Atlanta, well, you know those fans are still fuming after that ridiculous and BS roughing the passer call. But then again, look who got the benefit of the doubt on that one.
Yeah, and not only was there a ridiculous call there, but the Raiders also got a ridiculous roughing the passer call. But unfortunately for the Raiders, it didn't affect them, or it didn't affect the outcome in that game. Kansas City had a right to be pissed, but we'll get into them because they got basically one of the 2 monster games of the week. So we'll get into them in a little while. But San Francisco should bounce back. They should win the game. They should win this one. I got the 49ers winning, so Anthony, we'll just move on.
Yep, and we're going to move on to the game that I do believe comes in as our Zonk game of the week, our default Zonk game of the week, because of the records and the intrigue of the matchups. It will be the New England Patriots squaring off against the Cleveland Browns from First Energy Stadium in Cleveland. Kevin Harlan, Trent Green, and Melanie Collins on the call. And the spread favors Cleveland by 2.5. And the series history, it will favor the New England Patriots 13-12. They met last year in Foxborough, all New England in that one, 45-7. Patriots have won the last 4 meetings with the Browns, including their last one in Cleveland, 2016. Browns won that one, or I should say Patriots won that one, 33-13. The Browns' last win over the Patriots at home and overall was 2010, when the Cleveland Browns defeated the Patriots 34-14. All right, MF, both teams 2-3. Cleveland coming off a tough luck loss at home to the LA Chargers, whereas the Patriots in their old school unis, and you got it right. I'll give you your props. You had it. They absolutely manhandled the Detroit Lions. Can they keep that momentum going into Cleveland?
I think it really understands the situation. But the thing is that if you're in New England, look, you kind of feel like maybe you probably put everything together. But the thing is that you got a two-headed monster. The running attack of Cleveland is a lot more better. And I kind of feel like Jacoby Brissett is actually good enough that if this is to get a little more dicey, I could see them eking this one out and winning it. But I wouldn't be like 1,000%, you know, about it. But I'll say this: it'll be a tight game. It'll be close. It'll be probably down to the wire. But I do believe Cleveland will figure out a way and will win this one. So give me Cleveland Browns to win this game, and yeah, this will keep their hopes alive. So give me Cleveland Browns beating the New England Patriots. I'll say 21-13. That's my final score. So Anthony, it's yours.
All right. Browns quarterback Jacoby Brissett faces off against the team that drafted him. Brissett, who started 2 games as a rookie for the Patriots in 2016 due to Tom Brady's Deflategate suspension and an injury to Jimmy Garoppolo, has never started against Bill Belichick or the Patriots before. The Browns, who lead the NFL in rushing yards a game behind Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, and a solid offensive line, will be held below their average of 192.4 rushing yards. This is a tall task for a Patriots run defense that hit a rough patch from the second half of their Week 3 loss to the Ravens through their Week 4 loss to the Packers. But there were decisive signs of a bounce back in a shutout win over the Lions last week. The Browns have allowed the third worst yards per rush, 5.32. They will be facing Patriots running back Ramondre Stevenson, who ranks 8th among qualified running backs in yards per rush at 5.5. 4 times in 5 weeks has a New England receiver scored over 18 fantasy points. Those 4 performances have come by 3 different players: Jacoby Myers, Nelson Aguilar, and MF's old friend Devontae Parker. Betting nugget: Bill Belichick is 8-2 outright and 7-3 against the spread against Cleveland. FPI loves Cleveland in this one, 73.7%. You can basically round it up to 74% for the Cleveland Browns. I'm going with the Cleveland Browns to win this game as well. My final score, just a smidgen higher than MF has it. I'm going to say 24-16. Cleveland knocks off New England in our default, keyword default, song game of the week, although there's nothing remotely wrong with it. So with that being said, let's move on to one of the top games of the week over on the Fox side, as it will feature and Crossflex. Crossflex. This is a game that you would usually see on CBS, but it ends up going over the Fox, as it'll be the New York Jets squaring off against the Green Bay Packers from Lambeau Field in Green Bay on Fox, with Kevin Burkhardt, Greg Olsen, Aaron Andrews, and Tom Rinaldi. And the Packers opening up as a 7.5-point favorite. And the series history, it favors the New York Jets by a count of 8-5. Their last meeting was 2018 in New York. Packers won a wild one, 44-38 in overtime. Last meeting in Green Bay, 2014. Green Bay also won that, 31-24. Packers have won the last 3 meetings in this series. The Jets' last win against Green Bay, overall and in Green Bay, 2006, when the Jets went into Lambeau and pounded the Packers 38-10. So Jets and Packers, here we go. Just fast forward to the second half of this game because that's where it will be decided. The Packers have scored 7 or fewer points in the second half in 4 of their 5 games. The Jets have scored 61 points combined in the second half this season, third most in the AFC behind only the 2 teams that will be headlining this week, Buffalo and Kansas City. In the battle of the two-headed backfields, the Jets' young guns, Breece Hall and Michael Carter, will outrush the Packers' more heralded tandem of Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. Jones-Dillon is averaging 127 yards a game compared to 87 for Hall and Carter. But the Jets' 2 runners are coming off a big game against the Miami Dolphins. The Jets are also starting to create a run-first identity on offense. Should the Packers lose, they'll be 3-3 after 6 games for the first time since 2012. A Jets win in that situation would mark their first 4-2 start since 2015. Aaron Rodgers has yet to finish a week as a top 10 fantasy signal caller. For the record, Ryan Tannehill, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Joe Flacco all have a top 10 finish on their 2022 resume. Under coach Matt LaFleur, Green Bay is 10-0 outright and against the spread following a loss. Overall, Green Bay has won and covered 12 straight games following a loss, the longest streak by any team since the AFL-NFL merger in 1970. The FPI loves the Packers in this one. 82.6%, just about 83% going with the Green Bay Packers. I'm going with the Green Bay Packers to win this game, but it's going to be closer than you think because this Jet team, don't sleep on this team. Don't count this Jets team out. 27-23, I say Green Bay pulls it out, but if the Jets stole this one with the way they've been playing as of late, I wouldn't be surprised. So, but I'm going to take a chance on Green Bay, 27-23. Green Bay, tough luck loss to the Giants in London last week, whereas we had the Dolphins-Jets game last week, and we couldn't believe what we saw. What? The Jets? Wow.
It was the fourth quarter because if you noticed, it was pretty close, relatively speaking, until it got to the fourth, and then the Jets put 21 points out of nowhere and basically slayed the Dolphins. So, yeah, if it's a tight game and it gets to the fourth quarter, the Jets could steal it. Absolutely. They played a remarkable game, no doubt about it, and everything else. So you kind of feel like Green Bay needs an identity, and I don't think they have it. So it's just got to be one of those where everything's got to go right and the whole 9 yards. So we'll see how it plays out. But up to this point, we'll have to see it. But other than that, I don't know. I'm gonna go with Green Bay, but I'm not like 1,000% sure about it. We'll just have to wait and see. So nothing more to say. Anthony, it's yours.
All right, MF. Let's. You'll be starting off on our next matchup, and it's the number 4 game of the week on our side of the ledger, as it will be the Jacksonville Jaguars squaring off against the Indianapolis Colts from Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. Andrew Catalan, James Lofton, and Amanda Renner will be on the call. And just bear with me for a moment because this right here, wow. All right. And this is already the second meeting because these 2 teams just met a few weeks ago in Jacksonville. And the Jacksonville Jaguars pounded the Indianapolis Colts 24-0. And that was back in week number 2 in Jacksonville. So Jacksonville's win, when you couple that with their series history, Jacksonville cuts into Indy's lead. It's now 26-17 in favor of Jacksonville after Jacksonville won in Jacksonville last month. That 24-0 manhandling. Last year, though, in Indianapolis, the good news for Indy is that the Colts have won the last 4 meetings. No, I'm sorry. No, I'm right. It's the last 4 meetings Jacksonville hasn't won in Indianapolis since 2017. The Colts have won the last 4 meetings in Indianapolis, including a 23-17 win last year. But MF, big news coming out. Jonathan Taylor is going to be out again. And on top of that, Nyheim Hines, I believe, is also out as well. So
this is the perfect storm if you're Jacksonville. This is a Jacksonville win. This has the recipe for a Jacksonville win. So, yeah, you lose your 2 biggest running attacks. Now you got to rely on Matt Ryan to throw the football and to rely on those receivers. I got to be very honest with you, Anthony. This has the makings of a Jacksonville win, to be very honest. So I think it could happen. So this is going to turn into one of those type of situations that I'm going to openly admit it. I'm going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think they're going to bounce back. I think they're going to win this game. And Indianapolis, they're just falling apart. I just don't. I hate to say this, but I got no faith or no belief in this team right now. I don't. I kind of feel like they got lucky when they were playing against Denver. I think it was luck more than anything else. So I think the luck is going to run out. Give me the Jacksonville Jaguars to beat the Indianapolis Colts. Nothing more to say. Florio, it's yours.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I was tempted to go with Indy, but after this, you really can't. The Colts have inexplicably gone 3-8 versus the Jaguars in road games since 2012. But the Colts have dominated the Jaguars at home, going 8-2 in the same span. The Jaguars' last road win in the series came in 2017 when the Colts finished 4-12, due in large part to quarterback Andrew Luck missing that season with a shoulder injury. Jaguars wide receiver Christian Kirk will have 10-plus catches. The Jaguars' offense has been at its best when he's involved, and he had just 3 combined catches the last 2 games after having 18 in the first 3. Gus Bradley's defense keeps things in front of him, and there are times when a linebacker will be matched up with Kirk, a matchup Kirk exploited in the earlier meeting. He'll do it again. Trevor Lawrence has a 2-1 record with 4 touchdowns and 0 interceptions in his career versus the Colts. He is 0-5 with 4 touchdowns and 10 interceptions versus all other AFC South opponents. Travis Etienne Jr. played 9 more snaps than James Robinson last week and scored a season-high 14.4 fantasy points against the Texans. He has produced at least 6 PPR fantasy points as a pass catcher in 3 of his last 4 games. Indianapolis has gone under the total in 10 straight games, one shy of the longest streak in the last 35 seasons. The FPI likes Jacksonville as well, 59.7%, 60% going with Jacksonville. I'm going with Jacksonville, and you know what? I'm calling for a blowout here. I think Jacksonville manhandles them again. 30-7, Jacksonville all over Indy. So there isn't much more to say on that. So with that, we move on. Move on now to our next matchup. Another one of the good games over on Fox, as it will feature the Minnesota Vikings squaring off against the Miami Dolphins. But before I get into that, I did forget to mention that, believe it or not, Indianapolis is actually opening up as a 1.5-point favorite. Hard to believe, but it's true. But Minnesota Vikings, Miami Dolphins, Hard Rock Stadium, Miami, Florida, on Fox with Kenny Albert, Jonathan Vilma, and Shannon Spake. Minnesota opening up as a 3-point favorite. And in the series history between these two, it favors the Miami Dolphins. Miami leads the all-time series 7-5. The last meeting was 2018 in Minnesota. Minnesota blew out Miami 41-17. Last meeting in Miami, 2014. The Miami Dolphins won a wild one, 37-35. The Vikings have only won in Miami once, and that was all the way back in 1976 when the Minnesota Vikings defeated the Miami Dolphins in the old Orange Bowl, 29-7. So that's the story there. So dive on into this. Skylar Thompson will become the 10th rookie to make his first career start for the Dolphins since 1966. He can also become just the third rookie to win their first start, joining David Woodley and Tua Tagovailoa. They haven't fared well as a group, however, throwing for 6 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. Only Dan Marino and Ryan Tannehill eclipsed the 200 passing yard mark. Dalvin Cook will have his best game of the season, rushing for at least 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Dolphins' run defense has actually been pretty good this season, ranking number 7 in the NFL based on expected points added. But it has allowed 7 rushing touchdowns, tied for 6th most in the league. And Cook, a Miami native, has averaged more than 100 yards a game dating back to college when he played Florida-based teams in Florida. Kirk Cousins has 75 passing first downs this season, the 3rd most in the NFL behind both Kansas City's Patrick Mahomes and Buffalo's Josh Allen, who both have 78. He is facing a Dolphin defense that allows 8.29 passing yards per attempt, the 3rd worst in the NFL. We are 5 weeks into the season, and 47.7% of Jalen Waddle's 2022 production has come in a single game. Week 2 at Baltimore, 40.1 fantasy points. Minnesota is 1-5 against the spread in its last 6 road games, 0-2 against the spread this season. But the FPI likes Minnesota in this one, 65% going with Minnesota. I'm going with Minnesota to win as well. My final score, I'm going to say 21. It's going to be a close game, but I'm going to say 21-20. Minnesota steals one in Miami and keeps their winning ways going. So not much more to say here. MF, another tough game for your Dolphins here. But the good news is, even though you got Skylar Thompson going tomorrow against Minnesota, the big good news that came out, you're getting Tua back next week for that Sunday night game against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and look, if you haven't seen Skylar Thompson is a pretty good quarterback. He was really good for the Dolphins during the preseason, and he was okay against the Jets in relief. He literally got thrown into the fire before anything big was about to happen. So I know a lot of people are a little like, oh, this and that. No, you got to give the guy a chance on that one. That was kind of an unfair to him because he started out, literally got thrown into the fire against the Jets. Didn't expect to start there, and hey, he didn't expect to be in the game, and he got thrown in there. So I think Skylar will do fine. Kirk Cousins, if this was a primetime game, I'd be a lot more confident because we all know Kirk Cousins don't play well in primetime games. But whenever it's 1 o'clock, it's an earlier game. You got Dalvin Cook, you got Justin Jefferson, you got those weapons. So you know this could end up being a bad situation. So, yes, I get it. Miami's definitely the underdog here, and fine by us. But I believe Miami could pull an upset here. But the thing is this. There's a lot of injuries on the Dolphins. What type of team are we going to have tomorrow? There's a lot of guys who are on injury report, so we might not have a full arsenal here for the Dolphins. This should be a good one for Minnesota. Vikings should win it. On paper, they should win this game. There's really nothing more to add. Anthony, it's yours.
All right, MF, and you'll be leading off on our next 1 o'clock matchup, which is the number 5 game of the week on our side of the ledger. This came in at number 5, as it will feature the Cincinnati Bengals squaring off against the New Orleans Saints from the Caesars Superdome in New Orleans on CBS, of course. And on that call will be the legendary Greg Gumbel alongside Adam Archuleta and AJ Ross. And the spread favors Cincinnati. Cincinnati opening up as a 3-point favorite. Series history, this series is tied 7-7. Their last meeting was 2018 in Cincinnati. New Orleans blew the doors off Cincinnati, 51-14 beatdown. Last meeting in New Orleans, 2014, Cincinnati Bengals stole one in the Superdome, 27-10. As a matter of fact, the New Orleans Saints have not beaten the Bengals at home since all the way back in 1993. 20-13 was the final that year. So MF, number 5 game of the week. Both teams, or I should say New Orleans, coming off of a wild game against the Seattle Seahawks in a game that had no right to be as entertaining as that was, but it was.
Yeah.
And New Orleans won that one, whereas the Cincinnati Bengals got their hearts ripped out by Lamar Jackson and the Ravens in Baltimore.
Yeah, and the thing is that like you said, the way that the games went down, the way that this is ended, there should have been no business for this game to have been as entertaining as it was, but it did. I gotta feel like Cincinnati's gonna bounce back here. I kind of felt like I think they know and they realize they let one get away. And normally, whenever you lose a game like that and lose it in that kind of fashion, it lights a fire under some other teams, or it lights a fire under that potential team. So I think Cincinnati will bounce back. I believe they will win this one. So give me the Bengals. I think that they're due for a victory here. So Cincinnati wins. Really nothing more to add, Anthony. Go.
The Saints are short on receivers, seriously short. Kick returner Deontay Hardy has a significant toe injury. Michael Thomas hasn't practiced in weeks. Jarvis Landry's status will likely be up in the air. And Chris Olave is still going through the concussion protocol. That means things might fall on the shoulders of Alvin Kamara and Taysom Hill for the second straight week. If Hill comes in to repeating last week's 4-touchdown performance, the Saints just might be okay. Alvin Kamara goes for 125 total scrimmage yards. Baltimore had success had success attacking Cincinnati horizontally and picking up decent gains. With New Orleans having several offensive question marks, Kamara could be the most reliable asset for the Saints. The Saints are seeking their first home win against the Bengals since January 2nd of 1994, as part of that 93 season. Jamar Chase has failed to score even 13 fantasy points in 4 straight games. He had a run of 5 straight games with fewer than 14 fantasy points in the middle of last season, weeks 8 to 13. You take the bad with the extreme good. Cincinnati has gone under the total in 10 straight games, including the playoffs, one shy of the longest streak in the last 35 seasons. FPI also likes Cincinnati in this one, 63% going with the Bengals. I'm going with the Bengals as well. I'm going to say, if the Saints had all their weapons, I would have said closer game. I would have said 28-21, but considering with all the weapons being down, I think Cincinnati will win a little more comfortably. I'm going to say 33-19. Cincinnati gets back on track, defeats New Orleans, and that's that. 2 early games left, but next up, it's the number 2 game of the week on our side of the ledger, right behind the big one. What a battle we got here. The Baltimore Ravens squaring off against the New York Giants from MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey, in the Meadowlands. Iron Eagle, Charles Davis, Evan Washburn, they will have it. And of course, we all, when you think of these two teams, you cannot help but think about Super Bowl 35, of course. The Baltimore Ravens opening up as a 5.5-point favorite. And the series history between these two, it favors the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore leads it in the regular season 4-2. Their last meeting was 2 years ago in Baltimore. Ravens won that 27-13. Last meeting in New York, 2016. The Giants won that one 27-23. And the Ravens have only won at the Giants once, and that was their very first meeting back in 1997. The Baltimore Ravens winning at the old Giants Stadium 24-23. And then, of course, we all remember Super Bowl 35 at Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, January of 2001, when Baltimore absolutely blew the doors off the Giants 34-7 in one of the most lopsided Super Bowl wins of all time. So, all right, number 2 game of the week on our side. Here we go. The Ravens get to face former defensive coordinator Wink Martindale. And I ain't talking about the game show host, friends, who went to the Giants after 10 years with the organization this offseason. It was nothing negative. It was just time, Martindale said this week of the breakup. Martindale knows Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson's game, and Jackson knows Martindale's defense. having gone against it every day at practice the previous 4 years. Both are having success this season. Jackson is 8th in the NFL with a QBR of 63.6, while Martindale's defense hasn't allowed more than 23 points a game. J.K. Dobbins will produce more rushing yards than Saquon Barkley. Dobbins is coming off his most explosive game, averaging a season-best 3.25 yards after contact. The Giants have struggled against the run, giving up an average of 2.36 yards after contact, fourth worst in the league. It could be a challenging day for Barkley against Baltimore, which has allowed just one running back to rush for more than 80 yards in a game since the start of 2021. And that was Minnesota's Dalvin Cook, week 9 last year. Lamar Jackson has a 12-0 record as a starting quarterback against NFC teams in his career, per the Elias Sports Bureau. That's the second longest interconference win streak to start a career since the 1970 merger. Barkley has more than 15 receiving yards in every game this season. Not a bad trend for a player who also has at least 13 points as a rusher in 4 of 5 games this season. FPI likes Baltimore in this one, 64.8%, 65% going with Baltimore. I'm going to take a chance and go with the Baltimore Ravens in this one. Close game. I'm going to say 24-21. The Ravens steal one in the Meadowlands, but if the Giants were to win MF, I wouldn't be surprised, but Ravens-Giants. Going into this season, you were thinking, I don't know. We'll see, but
you would think Ravens definitely should be a threat. Giants, not so much, but my goodness.
Number 2 game of the week on our side.
And the thing is that it's really more because of New York than Baltimore. Because think about it. Baltimore choked against Miami, choked against Buffalo, and should have lost to Cincinnati. They should have lost that game. So it was unfortunate that Cincinnati shot themselves in the foot on this one more than anything else. And as far as the Giants goes, all they just did was go over to jolly old England, home of now King Charles III, God rest the soul of Queen Elizabeth II, rolls up into Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and basically beats Aaron Rodgers, the American hero, and the Green Bay Packers? I'm Maleta. What is going on? I mean, hey, props to Molly Karam's New York Football Giants. Hey, props to that team, man. They earned it. They deserved it. That was a big win for them. Now they're going up against the Ravens. And the thing is that New York has been really good this year. Probably better than a lot of us expected. Because honestly, when we were thinking about the season, when this started, we're thinking, Giants are going to be trash. They're going to be the usual. They're going to be near the bottom of the NFC East. Oh, no. They're right now in the mix.
Credit to my old friend, Brian Dable, the former offensive coordinator of the Buffalo Bills, who's responsible for making Josh Allen who he is today.
And I will say this. If Dable continues to do what he's doing with the Giants, this man might be the coach of the year. Like, there should be some coach of the year consideration for this guy right now for the work that he has done with the New York Giants, because this was beyond a surprise for us. So at the end of the day, I'm going to go the same way. I'm going to say that I believe that that Baltimore is going to win, but I would not be stunned if the Giants wins this game on Sunday. So nothing more to say. Anthony, it's yours.
All right, MF, and you'll be leading off on our final early game of week number 6. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers squaring off against the Pittsburgh Steelers from Heinz Field in Pittsburgh, or I should say Acrisure Stadium, formerly Heinz Field in Pittsburgh. We have to be determined as far as the lead commentator goes, because it's supposed to be Joe Davis's crew. Joe Davis with Daryl Moose Johnson and Pam Oliver. The thing is, Joe Davis was working the other National League Division Series for Fox, the Atlanta Braves and the Philadelphia Phillies. And that series ended today, much to MF's chagrin, but, it is what it is. But maybe Joe Davis could be there tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see. But it's going to be somebody. It could be Joe Davis or it could be somebody else with Daryl Moose Johnston and Pam Oliver, but we'll see. The spread favors the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay opening up as a 9.5-point favorite. That's not a big surprise. And looking at this series history, just give me a moment here. Okay. And it's a one-sided rivalry. It's all Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh leads this series 9-2. Last meeting was 2018 in Tampa. Pittsburgh won that 30-27. Last meeting in Pittsburgh 2014, Tampa Bay won 27-24. And the Steelers' last home win against the Bucs was in 2006. That was a 20-3 win. But all right, MF. Tampa Bay, we already know this. We talked about it earlier. Tom Brady benefiting from another BS ref call with that horrific roughing the passer call against Atlanta, which heavily affected the outcome of that game. Let's be realistic. But as far as the Pittsburgh Steelers go, oh boy, life after Big Ben Roethlisberger has not been great. And look what my Buffalo Bills did to them. Basically ran them out of Highmark last week.
Yeah, and look, they try to go with Kenny Pickett. They just to try to get some kind of look for the offense, to try to give them some kind of boost or some kind of morale help. And I hate to say it, it didn't help. He did nothing that would have made it any more relevant than what it was. You know what? I'll openly admit it. If that's the performance that they're gonna get, I really love our chances in a couple of weeks with Tua coming back against them on Sunday Night Football. I am very excited with that outcome. With the prospects. I don't know, man. I think this is not going to be an easy game. I just don't see Pittsburgh winning it. I don't know. Unless they change the dynamic of the team, I think they're going to fall again. I hate to say it. I got Pittsburgh losing. So, Anthony, it's yours.
Yeah. Hard times for this once proud franchise, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And boy, you talk about how the mighty have fallen situation. That's exactly what we have in the Steel City. After finishing the 38-3 loss to the Buffalo Bills without their top three cornerbacks, the Steelers still figure to be shorthanded in the secondary against the Buccaneers. While safeties Minkah Fitzpatrick with a knee and Terrell Edmonds with a concussion will likely play, the status of the corners, Cam Sutton with a hamstring, Akello Witherspoon with a hamstring, and Levi Wallace with a concussion, is less certain. That's bad news against the Bucs offense that averages 281.8 passing yards a game, and it's getting stronger as its receiving core gets healthier. Tom Brady will throw for more than 350 passing yards for a third consecutive game, tying 2011 and 2013 for the longest streak in his career. The Steelers have surrendered 11 passing touchdowns so far this season, tied for third most in the NFL. They've also allowed 5 wide receivers to eclipse the 100-yard mark, including 171 yards from Buffalo's Gabe Davis last week. Pro Bowl wide receivers Mike Evans and Chris Godwin should benefit. Leonard Fournette has back-to-back games with 50 receiving yards and a touchdown. He could become the first Bucs running back to do it in 3 straight games. Najee Harris was drafted 8th overall this summer after averaging 17.7 fantasy points a game as a rookie last season, but he has yet to hit 14 points in a single game this season, not once. Pittsburgh is in its largest home underdog role since 1989, when Pittsburgh upset Minnesota as an 8.5-point home underdog. FPI loves Tampa. 83% going with Tampa Bay. I'm going with Tampa Bay. I'm going to say 27-10, Tampa Bay, easy win over Pittsburgh. So not much more to say here. Now let's get into the late games. And we started off with, we got 2 4:05 games left before we get to the big one. We got the Carolina Panthers squaring off against the Los Angeles Rams from SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California on Fox, with Kevin Kugler, Mark Sanchez, and Laura Oakman, fresh off their 2-week stay in Tottenham Hotspur in London. They called both of those London games the previous 2 weeks. And the Rams opening up as a 10-point favorite. No surprise there. We got another hard times team here. Just looking at the let me find their numbers. All right. These two teams used to be divisional rivals in the old NFC West way back when. Um, Carolina actually leads the series 12-9. Their last meeting was 2019 in Charlotte. Rams won that game 30-27. I think that was opening week 1, 2019, I think. Last meeting in LA, Carolina actually won 13-10. That was in 2016. So the Rams' last home win against the Panthers was as the St. Louis Rams in 2010. That was a 20-10 final. So yep. So let's get into it. The Panthers and the Rams. Okay, here we go. The Panthers and Rams have the second and third worst offensive EPAs in the NFL this season, respectively, according to ESPN Stats and Information Research. Matthew Stafford's 7 interceptions and 21 sacks are both tied for the most in the NFL this season. And Los Angeles has scored just 1 touchdown in its last 9 quarters. The Panthers' defense ranks just 22nd in Football Outsiders pass DVOA and has 3 interceptions this season. The Panthers, with only 8 sacks on the season, will sack Stafford 6 times to keep this one closer than most expect. Stafford has been sacked 12 times the last 2 games. The Rams are tied for last in the NFL in sacks allowed with 21, and interim Carolina coach Steve Wilks is known for his aggressive blitz packages as a defensive coordinator. P.J. Walker has a 15.1 career total QBR, the worst of any QB with 100-plus attempts since 2020. Christian McCaffrey is again pacing the position in terms of percentage of team running back touches, just about 90%. Saquon Barkley has been the star of 22 with 85%, and Indy's Jonathan Taylor, 77% in games he has played, was the player we all debated with McCaffrey at the top overall spot. Los Angeles is 1-4 against the spread this season, 0-3 against the spread at home. But the FPI loves the Rams, 76%, and going with the LA Rams. I'm going with the LA Rams to win as well. 24-10, I'm going with the Rams to win this game. So not much more to say here. MF, boy, the champs, not looking like champs. Looking maybe a slight Super Bowl hangover for the Rams, whereas the Carolina Panthers, you talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers being a mess. What a mess in Carolina. Matt Rule's fired, Steve Wilks, interim coach, and now they're taking trade offers for Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, I mean that's crazy, man. And not only that, but I do believe that maybe at the end of the year we might even see Baker Mayfield out of there as well. The way that this thing's going, I think they need a hard reset more than anything else. But I'm gonna go with the Rams here. I think the Rams will turn it around. Look, they had a bad performance. There's no doubt about it. But you cannot fall to Carolina. If you do, then it's a Super Bowl hangover, and then they got major problems. But the Panthers are a mess. They came in against the team, you know, at the right time. So no, I believe they'll win it, and there's really nothing more to say. So Anthony, it's yours.
All right, MF, you'll be leading off on the other 405 game before we get to the big one. Well, the big ones are back to back. So before we get to that, we have one other order of business to get to, the other 405 game that you can see on Fox, as it will be the Arizona Cardinals squaring off against the Seattle Seahawks from Lumen Field in Seattle. And on that call will be Chris Myers, Robert Smith, and Jennifer Hale. And the spread favors Arizona by 2.5. And the series history favors Seattle 23-22 with a tie. And of course, we all remember that tie. One of the worst games in NFL history. That Sunday night dud, that 6-6 overtime tie in Arizona in 2016. We all remember that. Last year, both teams split. Both teams won on the road. So Arizona won in Seattle last year, 23-13. Seattle's last home win against Arizona was 2020. That was 28-21. MF, Seattle, the last couple of weeks, they've been putting up some crazy entertaining games against Detroit and New Orleans. And now they're at home against Arizona. Arizona, Yeah, they hung with Philly for a while, but ultimately Philly pulled away and won it. So Arizona and Seattle here. Good news for Cardinal fans. This is the last game without DeAndre Hopkins because he comes back Thursday night.
Yeah, and that's going to be a huge, huge, huge moment for them. Um, but for Seattle, if you think about it, they've done pretty well. A lot of people didn't really have them. The expectations were not as high. They've played pretty well in the last few weeks. But I kind of feel like this is Arizona's game to win. I like Geno Smith. I like Rashad Penny. I like what they've been doing. But I just feel like Arizona's got enough weapons that I believe they'll get the job done. So I got Arizona winning. Close game, though. Floyo, it's yours.
This MF, the Seahawks are in the midst of their third straight miserable start on defense, struggling equally against the run and the pass. They'll get a break with Arizona's backfield being shorthanded, but then again, Seattle got run all over last week by Taysom Hill to the tune of 112 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. With the Cardinals down to just one of their top 4 running backs this season, Eno Benjamin, Arizona had to restock its running back room this week with guys off the street. Kyler Murray will make sure the running attack isn't lacking, rushing for 75 yards and 2 touchdowns in Seattle, including breaking a long one that'll silence the hyped-up crowd. The Cardinals have been outscored 38-0 in the first quarter this season, the only team without points in the first quarter this season. The Seahawks have scored the second most first quarter points this season at 41. For his career, Kyler Murray is averaging 36.8 rush yards and completing 69% of his passes against the Seahawks, more than 16 fantasy points in 4 of those 5 games. Arizona is 10-1 against the spread on the road since the start of last season. FPI likes Arizona as well, 64% like the Cardinals. And I'm going to go with the Arizona Cardinals to win this game as well. I'm going to say 33-27. Arizona defeats Seattle. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, it's time. In the immortal words of Mark Henry from AEW Rampage, it's time for the main event. Are you ready? The game of the week on our side of the ledger, hell, the game of the year to this point. 4:25 kickoff. My Buffalo Bills squaring off against the Kansas City Chiefs from Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City for the first time since the greatest NFL playoff game of all time. A game that was won by the Kansas City Chiefs 42-36 in overtime. And you don't need a dirt sheet. You already know who's working this game, and you already knew who was working this game even when the schedule came out. Hello, friends. Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, Tracy Wolfson, and oh, by the way, nationally televised game. Everybody is getting this game. Everybody. We got to make that quite clear. Buffalo opening up as a 2.5-point favorite. And the series history. And now it favors Kansas City, if I remember correctly. Actually, no, Buffalo leads the all-time regular season series 25-21 with a tie. That tie came back in 1963, a 27-27 tie in Buffalo. Last year, we all remember it. Regular season, Sunday Night Football, the Buffalo Bills defeated the Kansas City Chiefs 38-20. And then, of course, the playoff game happened. The greatest playoff game of all time, 42-36, sudden death overtime. Kansas City wins. Well, it wasn't really sudden death overtime. It was a case of they got the ball, they scored a touchdown on their first drive, and because of the rules in place at the time, game over. Kansas City wins. JA-17 doesn't even see the ball in overtime. But the Bills' last win in KC was the regular season game last year, 38-20. The Chiefs' last regular season win at home against Buffalo was 2015, 30-22. So there isn't much more to say. Here we go, guys. This is it. Don't be surprised if the game's winner is determined by which quarterback runs for more yardage. Patrick Mahomes has averaged 43 rushing yards in 4 career games against the Bills, more than any other opponent, while Josh Allen has run for 64 a game against the Chiefs. both have also thrown it well in this rivalry, with Mahomes having a QBR of 86.1 against the Bills and Allen an 83.5 QBR against the Chiefs. Wide receiver Stephon Diggs will have his first 100-yard game against the Chiefs as a Buffalo Bill. In 4 games against the Chiefs since 2020, Diggs has averaged 50 receiving yards a game, but he's averaging 102 yards per contest this season. The Chiefs defense will also have to deal with a now healthy Gabriel Davis coming off 3 receptions for 171 yards against the Steelers. Along with slot receiver Isaiah McKenzie and tight end Dawson Knox returning to the field, the success of other players will open up opportunities for Diggs against a defense that is 24th in the NFL and allowing about 256 passing yards a game. Travis Kelce's 7 receiving touchdowns this season are tied for the second most by a tight end in the team's first 5 games in NFL history. Backwards trend for Diggs certainly has played out that way recently, as Diggs has failed to score 15 fantasy points in 5 of his past 7 games with an over or under of 50 plus. Josh Allen is 20, 10, and 2 against the spread on the road. The FPI actually likes Kansas City, 61% going with Kansas City. I can certainly understand that. That's fair enough. But to be quite honest with you, I got to go with Buffalo. I know everyone will say, oh, you're a homer. Yeah, whatever. Yes, I am a homer, but the big difference is there's no Tyreek Hill. There's no Tyreek Hill to give us headaches. That's all I'm saying. That playoff game is a game that MF and I will never forget for as long as we live. And boy, howdy. I mean, the big question out of this is, will the sequel top the original? It might not. But regardless, I think it's going to be another 5-star classic, chock full of Shakespearean drama. But I got to go with Buffalo. I think Buffalo gets the revenge, gets the payback. We all know it, 13 seconds. We all know it. It's been in my mind for the last 9 months. Trust me, it has. More than I can count. But I think Buffalo rights the ship here. 34-31, Buffalo gets the revenge, beats Kansas City. But there's only one thing left, and that is this game right here could be very well significant as to who the road to the Super Bowl will go through in the AFC. If KC wins, it could very well go through Kansas City one more time. But if Buffalo wins, it could end up going through Buffalo for the first time in almost 30 years. Very well significant. 34-31, Buffalo wins. MF, what else is there to say that hasn't been said already? I mean, we had the time of our lives in that playoff game last year. It's a game that we'll never, ever forget. All those screaming Anthony Florio moments in the last 2 minutes of that game and the winner in OT. But a game that will forever be remembered. It won the ESPY award at the ESPYs this past year. It won the Game of the Year ESPY award, and rightfully so. It wasn't even close. And we don't know if the sequel will top the original, but they'll give it a hell of a try. But there's nothing left for me to say except, Jesse Ventura, I got to do it. This is what the words main event were meant for, because this right here is the main event, brother, my man. It don't get no bigger. Do that Phil Simms thing I like. Hello, friends.
Yeah, well, the thing is that I get where you're coming from. I do get everything that you said going into this. And obviously, a lot of people are going to feel like, yeah, Buffalo definitely has a chance to win the game. Buffalo definitely has a great opportunity to win it. But the thing is that you talk about that Travis Kelce is the one, that there's no Travis Kelce. But even without Kelce,
Tyreek Hill, you mean?
Well, without Tyreek Hill, Kansas City is still better. They've proven it. The thing is that if you want to be an elite team, you gotta beat the best teams out there, And for a number of years, the AFC has been ran by Kansas City. They're the team that everybody's been watching. They're the team that everybody is like, oh my goodness, they're the thing. Everybody talks about how, oh, Buffalo's, probably the new favorite of the AFC. How Buffalo's been doing this, Buffalo's been doing that. Kansas City is probably like, we're still the Kansas City Chiefs. We're still one of the best teams in the AFC. And enough about all this Bills crap that we've been hearing. They gotta beat us. They gotta prove that they're in our level. And before you can anoint them Super Bowl favorites. So for Kansas City, they want to make a statement by saying that the Bills are nothing but frauds, that they're not in their level, they never will be in their level, and they still run the AFC. For Buffalo, this is revenge. This is about the 13 seconds that got ripped from their hearts and basically for their factor, they thought this was their time. This was their moment. They ransacked through every team except for Miami. They got tripped up by the Dolphins. But after that, a big win over Baltimore, crushed Pittsburgh, and now everybody watches Kansas City. Let me tell you, Kansas City is not afraid. They aren't. They're not intimidated by Buffalo. So they're like, yeah, you did that to Pittsburgh, but that was Pittsburgh. You ain't doing that to us in our house. No way in hell. So I think it's going to come down to a last possession game. But I'm sorry, Anthony, I disagree with you. I believe Kansas City has enough momentum, and I think they got enough venom and everything else to say that they are sick and tired of all this negativity, and they are sick and tired of all that junk that they heard. For me, I think Kansas City is going to go out and they're going to win this game. It's going to be close, but I believe Kansas City's walking out of here 30-23. Kansas City wins the game. So, Florio, it's yours.
Before we move on, MF, one question, and that is, if Buffalo wins, then what?
If Buffalo wins, then they're as good as advertised. They are the favorites of the AFC. They are the favorites to go to the Super Bowl, and they would be the team to beat if they knock off Kansas City. Flat out.
Okay, fair enough. So
here's the thing. If Buffalo wins, that's there. If Kansas City wins, Buffalo is not in their level. They never will be in their level. They will have to figure that part out if they do get the rematch. But once again, the AFC is driven by the Chiefs. They will be back in the driver's seat as the top team, and they will dare anybody to stop them. They refuse, out of all the other times, this is their crown. This is their moment. They're not the champions because Cincinnati's the champions, but we already seen what Cincinnati's done lately. So I think if you're Kansas City, you're saying this is still our kingdom. This is our moment and our time. So I'm going to say this. If Kansas City wins, you're going to hear all that barking from them. If Buffalo wins, then Buffalo will say, it's our conference now. We're the best in the AFC.
Wait, Howdy, I can't wait. I've been excited for this game ever since the schedule release show we did all the way back in May. So, all right. So with that, let's move on to the other big main event of the week, the game of the week on the NFC side of the ledger. Sunday Night Football on NBC, 8:20 kickoff. The Dallas Cowboys squaring off against the Philadelphia Eagles, Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, Melissa Stark on the call. Philadelphia opening up as a 6.5-point favorite. Dallas leads the all-time series 69-53, including Dallas has actually won the last 3 meetings in a row in this series, including a 51-26 beatdown in Philadelphia last year by Dallas. 51-26, Dallas beat Philly in Philly. Philly's last home win against Dallas was 2020. That was 23-9. But nothing more to say. MF, the other big main event, the other half of our double main event. We talked about the AFC game of the week. Now it's the NFC game of the week. Dallas, 4-1. Philly, the last unbeaten. Something has to give. Huge game in the NFC East.
Oh yeah, and this is you want to talk about everything happening over there. So for me, this is actually going to be even better. Yeah, this game is going to be nuts. Dallas has a moment where Cooper Rush is basically playing with the house money. Of course, you got Philadelphia, and with Jalen Hurts, with the weapons that they got, they're at home. So you're thinking maybe this is their game. But if you're Dallas, you're thinking deep down in your mind, you're like, we're playing with the house money. Cooper Rush is our quarterback. We've been playing really great. The running attack's been even better. Defensively, oh my God, Micah Parsons is without a doubt the best um wide receiver, best defensive player in the league. So for me, I really got nothing more to say. So this could end up a number of ways. So there's really nothing more to say. I gotta feel like Philly's gonna win this though. I feel like Philly's got the momentum. I think they're gonna get the job done. Yeah, I got really nothing more to say. So I got Philadelphia winning the game. Anthony, it's yours.
4 of the Eagles' starting offensive linemen are battling injuries, including left tackle Jordan Mailata, who plans to play but will be wearing a sleeve and a cuff around his right shoulder to limit arm mobility. The Cowboys' pass rush ranks first in pressures at 85 and second in sacks with 20. When healthy, the Eagles' O-line versus the Dallas defensive front is strength on strength. Keep an eye on how Philly holds up in the trenches. Micah Parsons will record the first interception of his career but not get a sack. It's about the only thing Parsons has not done in the first 2 seasons of his career. But Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts has been intercepted 4 times in 2 starts against the Cowboys, the most against any opponent. The Cowboys currently lead the league in pass rush win rate this season, while the Eagles rank 6th in pass block win rate. Ezekiel Elliott averaged more than 100 total yards against the Eagles last season, including his best game of the season, 26.6 fantasy points in Week 3. Cooper Rush is the 6th quarterback in the Super Bowl era to begin his career 5-0 outright and against the spread. Philadelphia is an overwhelming FPI favorite. The FPI loves Philly. 75% likes Philadelphia in this one. And guess what? I like Philadelphia as well. I'm going to say Philly wins. I'm going to say 27-20. Philadelphia defeats Dallas and keeps and stays unbeaten. But I'll say this: if Cooper Rush somehow finds a way to win this one, I would certainly not be surprised with how well that young man's been playing for them. Unbelievable. So not much more to say. And now we move on to the final game of the week. Monday Night Football on ESPN, 8:15 kickoff. It's our number 3 game of the week on our side of the ledger. Big game in the AFC West. We got the Denver Broncos squaring off against the Los Angeles Chargers, SoFi Stadium, Inglewood, California. Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, Lisa Salters. They'll be there at SoFi for the Broncos and the Chargers. And the series hit, and the Chargers opening up as a 4.5-point favorite. Denver leads the all-time series 69-54 with a tie. The one tie came in 1970, a 17-17 tie in Denver. And last year, both teams split, but both teams won at home. So the Chargers won at home against Denver, 34-13 last year. The Broncos' last win at the Chargers was in LA. It was in 2019, 20-13. The Chargers have won the last 2 meetings at home against the Broncos. So let's get to our final game of the night. ESPN's Adam Schefter reported that Broncos quarterback Russell Wilson has been battling a partially torn lat near his right shoulder. But Broncos coach Nathaniel Hackett said that no limitations will be placed on Wilson against the Chargers. He's a competitor. He's doing great. This extra little mini bye that we've had has been fantastic for him and really our whole team. Hackett said of the 10-day span between their Week 5 Thursday night game and Monday night's Week 6 matchup. The Chargers are on a 2-game win streak despite playing without top pass catcher Keenan Allen, who has been sidelined 4 games because of a nagging hamstring injury. Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert has been one of the most difficult starters to sack in the season's first 5 weeks. He's been sacked 1 or 0 times in 4 of the Chargers' 5 games this season, but the Broncos will get him 3 times. The Broncos defense, which has been one of the bright spots in their clunky 2-3 start, is tied for 4th in the league in sacks, and Herbert will put the ball in the air enough to give the Broncos a chance to test their rush. Herbert has only had 9 games in his career when he's been sacked at least 3 times, and the Chargers are 3-6 in those games. Herbert has 972 career completions and could reach completion number 1,000 against the Broncos in just his 38th career start. That would make him the fastest by quarterback starts to 1,000 completions since at least 1950. Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford currently holds that distinction at 41 starts. Remember all that complaining within the industry about Austin Eckler's slow start? Well, through 5 games, he is just 5.6 points behind of where he was at during his 2021 breakout. In fact, he actually has 2 more touches through 5 games this year than last. Los Angeles is 4-1 against the spread this season, while Denver is 1-4 against the spread. FPI loves the Chargers, 74% going with the Chargers. I'm going with the Chargers as well. I'm going to say 24-12. 24-12. The Chargers defeat the Broncos. Yes, MF, I'm actually watching that right now. I'm going to address that in just a little bit to set up for Thursday night because what a day we have had in that. That's all I'm going to say right there. So 24-12 Chargers win. MF, take it home.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Chargers as well. I do believe that they'll win this game. It's gonna be close. It's gonna be a little bit of an interesting matchup, but I got Chargers winning as well. So Anthony, it's yours.
All right, and with that will put the bow on this Week 6 edition of TXN Sports World NFL Saturday. We want to thank you all so very much for tuning in. We'll be back again Monday night for Ridiculously Raw, right back here on the Tone 25, as we will have Monday Night Raw and the return of my traditional Tony's Take, as I will have Impact Wrestling and NXT Level Up. Wednesday night, we got Wednesday Night Madness, hosted by good old MF Michael Fletcher, as we will have NXT. We will have now it's very interesting, MF, because we got both of those shows are going to be on Tuesday night. But do you still want to do it Wednesday?
I'm probably gonna still say let's do it Wednesday.
Yeah, that's fair enough to give us a chance to look over NXT. That's a good idea. All right. So Wednesday, it will be Wednesday Night Madness. I just wanted to be sure on that. So Wednesday Night Madness, we'll still have that, and we'll review the Tuesday night installments of NXT and AEW Dynamite, and we'll preview Thursday Night Football. Finally, what looks like a promising matchup: the New Orleans Saints and the Arizona Cardinals, featuring the return of DeAndre Hopkins from suspension. So we'll get into that on Wednesday. All right. College Football Thursday, week number 8 edition. Have any of you folks seen what has happened in college football today? Wow. Down went Bama. Bama went down. Tennessee did it. 52-49. Tennessee beat Alabama. TCU beat Kansas, or I should say TCU beat Oklahoma State 43-40 in double overtime. And just a moment, and only a few moments ago, down went USC. Utah beats USC 43-42 in 3 games that, without a doubt, are all going to be considered 5-star Shakespearean drama classics. None bigger than Bama and Tennessee. MF, whoa, what a day in college football. Unbelievable. And just it's something. And we're going to address all that on Thursday night, the Week 8 edition of College Football Thursday, and we're going to get a lot more in depth with that. Trust me on that. Friday, we got Cerebral Smack Talk. MF will have that, as we will have Friday Night SmackDown, AEW Rampage, and a preview of NXT Halloween Havoc, because Halloween Havoc goes down next Saturday night. And then next Saturday night, following Halloween Havoc, we will have the Week 7 edition of TXN Sports World NFL Saturday. We'll recap the Saints and the Cardinals. And next week, the Buffalo Bills, the LA Rams, the Minnesota Vikings, and the Philadelphia Eagles will be your bye teams next week. Not really too many exciting games on the ledger next week. I mean, we got the Cleveland Browns against the Baltimore Ravens. We got I guess you could say the Colts and the Titans for divisional purposes. The Green Bay Packers against the Washington Commanders. The New York Jets and the Denver Broncos. Seattle Seahawks against the LA Chargers. Hands down game of the week, the rematch of Super Bowl 54, the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. That's going to be on Fox. How they got that game instead of us is beyond me, but it is what it is. And those are really the notable games. And then the Chicago Bears and the New England Patriots, Monday Night Football. And I'm not really thinking much about that Steeler-Dolphin game other than Tua coming back, but we'll get into all that next week. So with that, so until Monday night for Ridiculously Raw, Anthony Florio here for Good Old MF Michael Fletcher, and in spirit, Michael Bullock, and of course the First Lady Dee Woodson. The routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah, throw it up Fortune Forest style. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other. Have a blessed couple of days. And until Monday night for Ridiculously Raw, you've been watching the Week 6 edition of TXN Sports World NFL Saturday right here on the Tone 25 on YouTube and StreamYard.com. For everybody who's been a part of this one, for now, Anthony Florio, so long, and bye, everybody. Bye.